entrepreneurs. But I have been in libraries for about 12 years. I've been in St. Louis for about 5, and my focus has been working on older adults since I've arrived in St. Louis.
Thank you, Hilary. So I'll go next. Carly, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Lily. Thank you. My name is Carly Feinberg. I'm the small business consultant at the Baltimore County Public Library in Maryland. My pitch was called Clean Start. And although the idea has evolved, the mission has remained unchanged, which is supporting the reentry community in pursuing entrepreneurship and small business ownership. Oh, and then as in my position at the Baltimore County Public Library, the 3 main responsibilities of my position include organizing business programs, connecting the library with other entrepreneur support organizations, and then meeting with individuals one-on-one to help develop their business ideas. So thanks for the invite today.
Thank you, Carly. And next one, Emily, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Lily. My name is Emily Tobin. I'm the Community Engagement Librarian at West Bloomfield Township Public Library, which is about 45 minutes outside of Detroit, Michigan. In my ELC pitch was Community Business Works. We don't have a very strong chamber of commerce that really supports growing small businesses. So we kind of wanted to do like a breakfast series where people could get information from the library on how to start small businesses within our community. My job in the library is basically outside of the library, so outside of the 4 walls, and my focus is on the senior community and partnering with other organizations like Parks and Rec in the community.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask you, like, what happened with your pitch last year? Could you please provide us like a little bit briefly about the result, that especially how it impacted your community, like, you know, with this, your pitch? And so our participants know more about your details about your pitch and the results that impacted the community and the money that you got, of course, for spending this great pitch. So let's start with Hilary first.
Thanks. So our program, we ended up actually having to push it out a little bit further than we had initially anticipated because of some change in staffing. We just weren't able to. So it's actually going to go live next week. It's 8 weeks. We've got different community organizations and members coming in. And I think that it's really helped to raise the profile for older entrepreneurs in the library. A lot of like what Carly talks about, like those one-on-one meetings, I coordinate a lot of those. And having this out there, we have seen even more of a spike. We were already seeing an increase in older adults reaching out to us for business services, but advertising, being able to put ourselves out there as a resource specifically for that community, we're really starting to see more and more traction with that. So that's really exciting. The money part is obviously really helpful. Money helps, right? So purchasing supplies, being able to, and honestly, having that funding allowed us, with the marketing, we got additional funding. We had someone reach out and offer additional funding. So that's been really helpful too. The 8-week incubator culminates in a pitch contest. And I think it was Duncan Smith said that a pitch is a really good way to show your value. And so that format along with the cash has been just really, really helpful. And I think that as far as getting into the community, working with new partners, it's been just overwhelmingly positive.
Thank you, Hilary. So, Carly, please share.
Thank you. Yeah, so I did mention that our idea has evolved. So originally, as I mentioned, it was called Clean Start. And we were initially going to buy commercial grade cleaning equipment, encourage formerly incarcerated individuals to participate in our existing Entrepreneur Academy, which is a 7-week course that we offer that covers essentially all the steps leading up to launching a business. So for example, business strategies, market research, business finances, and so on. And then after they participate in Entrepreneur Academy, they'd be able to then borrow the cleaning equipment to gain experience in launching and gaining traction with running a cleaning business. So our Entrepreneur Academy was this past fall, and we connected with the Baltimore County Detention Center to share the program and share what we were offering. And we had 7 individuals referred to us who registered for Entrepreneur Academy. And Entrepreneur Academy, because it is a bit of a time commitment, it's 7 classes, an hour and a half each. We realized that actually poses the first barrier for individuals that we weren't expecting. So 7 weeks is a lot, especially for people that are trying to restart their life. And yeah, just a lot of changes are happening for them. So we had 3 graduates out of the 7, and we realized after the fact that they all had kind of businesses that they were already working on. So a microgreens business, an apparel business, and a computer repair business. So the individuals that actually graduated Entrepreneur Academy already had our business in the works. So we realized that we kind of narrowed ourselves to, we were too specific with what we were offering. And I think it might have deterred some people who had a business idea that they realized that they weren't interested in using the cleaning equipment from even participating in Entrepreneur Academy. So then we took a step back and we wanted to reevaluate what we were offering. So our program also got pushed back, and we kind of broadened the scope. So we're still completely focused on the reentry community. And just like Hillary, our program starts next week as well for Second Chance Month, which is April. So the program is called Baltimore County Public Library's Second Chance Month Celebration. And it's now a 5-part program that spans into May, which includes next week is our virtual reentry resource fair, where we have 6 reentry supporting organizations participating to share their organization and what they offer. Then we're having a 2-part business workshop, which is a lot less of a time commitment, but it still covers the essential steps involved in starting a business. So those 2 classes. Then we're offering a suit giveaway with an outside partner that's helping us put on that event. So that's early May for individuals that could use a suit for an interview, a pitch competition, or any other reason that they might need a suit for. And then lastly, we'll be hosting a pitch competition for these individuals to then win funding to get their business idea off the ground. So part of the funding we received will be going towards monetary prizes for the top 3 pitches, as well as for the individuals who don't have an idea fully developed. We're going to be also funding classes through a local organization that provides skills that these individuals could then use to turn into a business. So that organization teaches classes on bicycle repair, sewing and sewing machine skills, basic woodworking, things like that. So we're still supporting the people who have a business idea and want to move that along, but also the individuals who are interested in entrepreneurship but don't know where to go with it yet. So the idea has evolved, but it's also starting next week. So we're excited to see the impact it'll have. Thank you.
Thank you, Carly. Thank you so much. Emily, please share yours with us.
So like everybody else, mine has also been a little bit delayed, but hey, that's the library world when you're doing programming. That's what happens. So mine will actually start in the summer. It will be a 4-week workshop. Part of the setback was just getting consecutive dates. Like if you want to have it every, 4th Monday or every 1st Monday, finding that space in our facility to be able to do it consecutively. So it will be, again, a breakfast workshop where people come in that want to get information or are interested in starting a small business. We're partnering with SCORE to be able to provide those workshops. In the meantime, the money that we were given from ELC, we have put together a really nice resource about all of the small business resources we have in the library, and we were able to get those into every new member of the Chamber of Commerce. We give out bags, so all of that goes into the Chamber of Commerce bag. So that's what we're doing in the meantime. We've put that together.
Thank you for sharing this with us. It's really wonderful. And I'm going to ask next question that like our registrants submitted already, that if you could do something different with your pitch, what would it be? Tell us about your thoughts on this question. Hilary, please go ahead.
So I think if I were to do something different, honestly, I think I would make it a bit even more age inclusive. Our project is starting at 55 and over, and one of the things that we realized really quickly is that age 50 to 55, there is a huge demand. And so when we started to market this, there was this kind of gap in this demographic. And it's like, and honestly, you know, they're facing the same challenges. 50 plus faces most of the same challenges as 55. So I think if we were to do it over again, I would definitely drop that age. And then of course that just increases the number of participants that are eligible, all of that good stuff. That would probably be the change. I think that otherwise, there will be lessons learned, I am sure, but otherwise, I think I'm really excited to see how it goes.
Thank you. This is really interesting. So, Carly, please share with us.
Yeah, so I would have a similar answer as Hillary, where I would make the target audience a little bit more broad. So as I mentioned, we were focusing one path towards entrepreneurship originally, and that might have, deterred people from participating. So now we're trying to reach a larger audience for anyone interested in starting a business, or even in the future, just learning more about entrepreneurship, trying to make it more open to those individuals as well.
Thanks. And Emily?
So I
Yours.
think I would do just a little bit more legwork in the beginning to figure out scheduling in our building and what was, you know, best for the people in our community to find like a consistent day, consistent time. It was very helpful. Carly was actually my mentor after this competition ended, but just to be able to talk through with somebody like what does work in a library. I am not a business librarian and she is a business consultant. So to be partnered with somebody beforehand to kind of, you know, work through those ideas, or to have somebody but to bounce those things off of would be, I think, what I would appreciate the most.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much sharing your thoughts on this question. I'm going to ask next question that still, again, it's from our participants that how did you prepare to be a panelist for this program? Hilary, please.
Prepare to be a panelist for this program.
Yeah, it's the question.
I closely read the questions that you sent out so that I would feel better. No, I think I revisited my pitch. I revisited kind of what Carly was talking about, you know, as things evolve, you know, like what was the original idea when I pitched versus what do I have now? You know, because you get so used to it day by day, to really kind of track what those changes are. But
Thank you. Carly?
Yes, very similar. I went back and I pulled up my pitch and went through the things I included because I knew some of the questions were what I might change or what I might add. So I went back and kind of went through the steps of developing the idea, identifying collaborators, all those things, just to remind myself of the process that brought me to this point. So I think that covers it.
Thank you. And Emily?
Pretty much the same thing. I went through my pitch deck again and thought about, again, what I could have done differently. And then it's been a year probably since I looked at that pitch deck to remind myself what was actually in each slide and how it's evolved.
Thank you. So I want to ask, like, could you please provide some tips, like, for providing and preparing a pitch proposal? Actually, you have now a great experience after 1 year, so it would be really great to our applicants, you know, to have your experience on this. Hilary, please go ahead.
You know, it's funny because I think that my advice, even though everything that we've talked about, all three of us, is how things have changed and they've evolved to actually what it's going to end up being. The idea of having a really clear idea of your program, those really being able to hit those really clear needs, you know, a very clear idea of who the community is, how your program is going to meet those needs in just being able to bullet point the boom, 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 like, you know, because you don't have a lot of time to, but it is a really effective way, again, of showing your value. So even though things have evolved, and honestly, I think all three of us would agree that whatever we end up with is probably going to meet those needs better than what we originally thought. As far as pitch prep goes, having those very clear ideas and being able to spell those out quickly would be my advice, and to really practice hitting those notes.
Yeah, to add on to that, when I was looking at my slides, breaking down your idea is very similar to breaking down a business idea. So for example, identifying the problem that you'll be addressing, explaining your solution and what you plan to offer to the community, defining your target audience, and then how you'll connect with the target audience. And that's a big thing just for so for example, in the past, we've offered some programs related to reentry, but they're not consistent and it's not like a regular thing we offer. So connecting with formerly incarcerated individuals would require extra effort just so that we're getting this program in front of the intended audience. So how you'll connect with that target audience, breaking down the budget and what money will be needed, who you'll collaborate with, your sustainability plan of after you use the funding, how will you continue the program, and then how your personal experience will allow you to carry this program out. So even breaking down your idea, it just reminded me of the steps that you go through when you're developing a business idea too. So hitting all the main points to make sure people can get the bigger overview of what you're trying to do.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Emily?
So I think it was said at the beginning of this panel that to remember that you're not pitching to a librarian, you're pitching to business people. I think that that's really something to keep in mind because we, as a librarian, we don't think the same as business people. So if you haven't taken business classes to really think about like what a return on investment looks like for, you know, pitching something. So that's a big thing to remember, that you're pitching to a business community and to show how you understand your community and your community need and how you can provide opportunities, and to show, again, like Carly said, how you can sustain your program. And then once I met with my pitch coach, just to really look at that deck and to see how you can like make it cleaner and to hit the high points in each slide, because you only have 5 minutes. So to be able to kind of take a breath and go through each slide and get the points that you really need to out.
Thank you so much. I think these points are really important for preparing the proposal, and it's very useful tips. Thank you so much. We have one question in the chat box that how comfortable were you with making presentations and pitching before being a part of this competition? Did participation help you get better at pitching? Hilary, please.
So I think the question was, how comfortable was I with doing the pitch? I was very uncomfortable. I am fine with public speaking. I do a ton of outreach. I do lots of programs. But in a sense of trying to sell this idea, especially outside, like to Emily's point, not to librarians, where, you know, that was definitely outside of my comfort zone. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I certainly am glad that I did it, not just for the funding, but personally, it was a really good experience. It was good to learn that I can do that. But yeah, not comfortable with that.
That's really interesting to know. Thank you. And Carly?
I could say I love attending pitch competitions. A lot of our local universities offer them, so I love going to them. But that was last year was my first time actually pitching myself. And it is challenging just because you want to make sure you're conveying all the most important points in 5 minutes. And I will say I have experienced teaching Zoom classes for the library and things like that, but it's different to be selling something and also speaking for 5 minutes. But on the other hand, it's easier to try to convince yourself to do it because instead of teaching an hour-long class, I'm like, this is 5 minutes. So if you think about it like that, it might take off a little bit of pressure.
Thank you. Thank you. That's interesting. And Emily, please.
I like what Carly said about it's only 5 minutes. I just was in a program with about 175 little kids for a story time with a critter. And I was telling the other woman that was in there, it's only an hour of your life. So it's only 5 minutes of your life. But I was also, it was very uncomfortable to do that. And again, like somebody that does programs, but that's like a one-to-one interaction with somebody, and it's not like I guess it doesn't like feel as intense as being in there for 5 minutes and like trying to sell yourself or your organization. But it was a good experience, and since then I have become more confident in public speaking and doing panels and things like that.
Thank you for sharing. And I personally was in the presentation as a participant last year. You all did great job, I would say. Thank you. Yes. And I'm going to ask, I would like also ask our participants, please type any questions you would, because we are ending our panel. And from my side, I have my last question that what are the key points you would recommend to 2024 pitch applicants? I know you somehow mentioned in your answers, but just again, some key points that you really would like to advise, like our 2024 applicants and pitch competitions. Hillary, please.
Well, kind of, we were all talking a little bit, be brave, right? Just put yourself out there and do it. There's value, and it's not even even not winning, there's value in doing it. And so try and kind of dig up whatever confidence you can muster. Listen to your pitch coach. I was incredibly grateful that that ELC provided a pitch coach that was especially for someone who hadn't even attended a pitch competition. So I really, that format was really new to me. So yeah, be brave and take in as much information as anyone is willing to share.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Carly, please.
I will say two things, not to scare everyone away, because I know all three of us said that it was very uncomfortable, but I think even in those experiences, that's like when you can really feel yourself growing. So it was good uncomfortable. And I will also say, really put as much effort as you can into connecting with your target audience. And this is something that we spoke, when I developed this idea, we spoke with several formerly incarcerated individuals, but I think speaking with more, maybe trying to get more opinions, developing this idea so that we could get, because those are the people we're trying to reach. So getting as many opinions and suggestions as possible, like Hillary's targeting older generations. So really just talking to as many people as you can, so you're solving the problem in the way your target audience wants it to be solved. So hopefully that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Emily, please.
So I echo Hillary. Please take advantage of your pitch coach because she was able to really streamline my presentation, and it probably would have been 10 minutes versus 5 minutes. So that's something that I would say to do. And then I ran my presentation by a lot of people just to get different feedback or things I may have missed in the community. So I would say to run it by different people. And then I ran through my pitch like once a day leading up to it, because I felt like I would see something in the way I presented it or in myself that I could kind of change or make flow better. So the more times you do it, maybe the less nervous you'll be. It didn't work for me, but it might work for somebody else.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any questions from our attendees? Yes, I have one question. Are there one or two particular points that you made that you feel really made you stand out, help you win? Hillary.
Let's see, I'm sorry, just looking at the question that really made you stand out and help you win. I honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I like to think that we all did a good job of that target audience, really making it clear who we were trying to help and how we were going to do it. And I think that for me, it was older adults, and I like to think that I placed where I did because I was able to demonstrate a genuine need and a solution to the problem. I think Carly was talking about being able to have that solution and a sustainable solution. I like to think that I demonstrated that. If anything, I think maybe those were my strongest points.
Thank you. And Carly?
I think my sustainability plan helped just because I added a slide on how this program would be able to continue even after we use the funding from ELC. And I think people like to see that this is not going to be a one-time offering and that it can continue to support the community. So maybe incorporating that sustainability plan will give the judges some confidence in what you're offering. That would be my main thing.
Thank you. And Emily?
I think just data from the community to back up the need in the community. My community doesn't really have very much resource for people that want to come into this community and start a business. So again, like Carly and Hillary, choosing a demographic that is in need really helps.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for being a panelist for today's workshop. It was really helpful. We have one more question from Mario, but since we don't have time, so I would just request Maria's just like we will have also networking time, so you can just ask there and maybe through chat, our panelists can respond. However, some of these questions just covered in the answers. So once again, on behalf of ELC Pitch Competition planning team, I would like to thank all of you and of course, all of our participants for listening us. Thank you so much. I'm closing the session and over to the next plan.
Thank you, Layli, and thank you to our panelists, Hillary, Carly, and Emily, for your wonderful insight. I'm now going to hand it over to Ann Gardner from the University of Arizona, who will be moderating our Pitch Me Anything panel of business and library experts. Ann?
Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes, good, great. Okay, hello. Nice to meet you all. I am part of the planning committee for this workshop. I am a master's in library science student at the University of Arizona. In my final year, I also work for Tech Launch Arizona, which is the university's technology transfer office. So we help with commercialization of U of A intellectual property. And that also involves startup creation and entrepreneurship. And I'm very lucky to be in conversation today with a panel of experts, some in the library, some outside of the library. And the idea of this panel is it's Pitch Me Anything. So we're going to do it in sort of a loose Ask Me Anything style question. So please put your questions in the chat that you have for our participants. I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and then I have a few questions prepared, but really we're interested in what you have to say. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Diane. Diane, please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Diane Lucy, the Business and Careers Manager at Richland Library in Columbia, South Carolina.
Thank you. And next I'm going to call on Naomi.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chef Naomi Jones, and I am a graduate of the Gwinnett County Entrepreneurship Program in Gwinnett County, Georgia.
Great. Thank you so much. Next, I would like to call on Casey. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Casey Carrillo. I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships with the University of Arizona Center for Innovation. We're a traditional incubator that serves scalable science and tech-based companies. So excited to be here.
Thank you, Casey. And Kanisha, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kanisha Raymond. I'm Director of Entrepreneurship Success and Access to Capital at Startup Tucson.
Great, thank you so much. So I'm going to start with a question that was submitted in advance from one of the attendees. And it's maybe a bit subjective, but they want to know what makes a winning pitch. So we'll start with Diane.
Well, I have several suggestions to share. First of all, being a librarian, I would always recommend that you do your research, of course. You need to define your project and its scope. Also, how does your project solve the problem that you're addressing? I would like you also to consider creating a convincing or persuasive argument. And I believe it was Emily that said you only have 5 minutes, so you really have to be concise and hit the key points in that 5-minute time limit. Also, emphasize the nature of the impact of your project. What will it do for your community and who are the key beneficiaries? So those would be my suggestions.
Great, thanks. Naomi?
Piggybacking a little bit off of what Ms. Diane said, be clear about who your audience is. Also solve a problem. You got to be able to seek a problem, solve the problem, and do it quickly. In that time, tell a story about what you're going to do. You got to draw them in, make them part of the journey, make them feel like they're going to miss out on something if they're not a part of this solution.
I like that. Tell the story. That's like a personal connection and almost like a sense of urgency as well in there. Casey.
Yeah, I think to just continue to echo, I think being concise is extremely important, understanding your audience, and also realizing the impact that you're making with your pitch and the project that you're presenting, being able to really tell a story and relate to the audience that you're presenting to, and always make sure that you're staying on time too. Within the 5 minutes is a key component.
Yes, staying on time, totally crucial. Kanisha, what advice do you have?
I'm going to echo everyone, but I think it's more the storytelling. I think that's where we lose it. We're so set on giving this pitch, telling about the solution, but you're missing the story that's going to bring it all together. So when you're thinking of creating that pitch, start with the beginning, middle, and end, just like you're writing a book, but really create a story that people can kind of grasp and know, like when they come back, if they have more questions, it's that thing that pulls them in, so they will have more questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually a very good segue into my next question. So, which is generally from your perspective, what advice or tips or maybe best practices do you have for presenting the pitch? And since this particular pitch is going to be done over Zoom, maybe the tips for Zoom might be a little different than in person. And instead of going in order the way we did, I'm going to switch it up and I'm going to start with Kanisha.
I think one of the biggest things is however you practice is how you need to pitch. So if you're practicing sitting down, then that's how you need to pitch. If you're going to stand up and do this, I think it's the best if you stand up because you're a little bit looser. If you need to move your legs, you're a little bit more comfortable in that space. So stand up, practice that pitch, talk to your camera. Think about the people that are in the room. You can't see all of them, but really connect with them like you guys were sitting in a room having coffee together. I think one of the biggest things is making sure that you're hitting your points and then kind of driving home at the end what those points were. So reiterating what you were pitching and then understanding the problem and the solution and not just the solution.
That's a good point. I didn't think about it that way, like practice from where you are, right? Like right now I'm sitting down in my chair talking to you all on Zoom, and I would not think about practicing that way for a Zoom pitch, but of course that makes total sense. Casey, what advice do you have?
Yeah, I think especially with Zoom, making sure that you're comfortable with the tech as well. So practice sharing your screen. I know we're all used to the Zoom world and all of that, but it's always, sometimes there's a little hiccup with that. So make sure you know how to share your screen. And again, like Kenesha was mentioning, if you're a hands talker, just get comfortable in however you're going to present for the actual pitch. But make sure your tech is 10 out of 10 ready to rock and roll.
Definitely. Nobody likes the whole, you start talking and then you get the, you're on mute. Like, that's always, I totally been there, done that. Super embarrassing, right? So Naomi, what advice do you have?
When I did it, I practiced with people. I practiced with classmates, I practiced with family members, and allowed people to ask whatever questions that they had so that I would be ready, so that I wouldn't get stumped when, someone asked that wild question that I just didn't have the answer for. You can do all the research, but someone's going to ask a question that you have no clue. Oh man, I didn't expect that. So I did a lot of practice, a lot of just dummy missions just to see, could I answer every question?
That is so interesting. Did that process of practicing with people and asking questions, did that actually change your pitch by the time?
It did.
Yeah.
It actually did, because there were questions that, especially my parents, I picked some of the people that were the hardest, parents and grandparents, people who were, both of my parents were entrepreneurs, and grandparents were not. They were traditional, 9 to 5, work for the bank, work for the hospital. And I had to get it from different aspects. People who would say, well, why would I give you this amount of money to start this? Why could not, being a chef, food is not the easiest thing to sell if it's everywhere. What could you do that no one else can do? And I had them ask me all the difficult questions, and it did change my pitch a lot, because I had to understand that I'm asking for something that already exists. I'm asking for money for something that already exists. So what could I sell? I had to sell a story. At this point, I had to sell my passion.
That is so interesting. And that made me think of a question that I'll come back to later, but I want to get to Diane. Please, what's your advice?
Well, I have a couple suggestions, and I totally agree with Naomi. When you are practicing, the goal here is to become comfortable and confident. And so if you're doing this, what you're trying to do is translate the vision of your project into the positive impact that it's going to make on the customers that you're trying to serve. So I would say definitely that storytelling is key, because when you tell a story, your audience can relate to that story, and it makes it more personal. So again, we also use storytelling when we do career services here at the library, but I do believe storytelling is the key, and also practice, practice, practice until you feel like you could just stand up and tell the world if you needed to.
Yeah, absolutely. My next question sort of dovetails with something that the panelists talked about in the last presentation, and that was a little bit about how there was a bit of like nerves, or we're librarians and we're talking to people in the business world who are experts in business. And luckily we have a panel of people here who are experts in the business world and entrepreneurship world. So my question is sort of around like, what advice do you have for people who so we're pitching to people who are experts in business, and that is maybe out of the presenter's comfort zone. What advice or tips do you have to help them be more comfortable, or maybe a little bit about what are some things that maybe from like the business entrepreneur side world, like, are you looking for in a good presentation? Like, what would make this stand out? And I'm going to start with Casey for this one.
Yeah, great question. So we work with our companies all the time on pitches, and I've definitely seen a lot of different pitches, but I think one of the key component is being relatable. So if you are not directly coming from the business aspect, just understanding basic key terms, and really if there's a rubric that needs to be followed with key components that you need to hit from the business and the entrepreneurial side, just making sure those are incorporated into your pitch. But again, if you're able to really tell the story and the impact, the business stuff will come naturally. So just being able to understand some key components and understanding the audience, but really just fine tuning what is asked to be in the pitch, I think is helpful from those that would be reviewing on the business side and incorporating that. And again, practice, practice, practice.
Great advice. I'm going to call on Kanisha next.
I echo Casey. The one thing I think that we really look at is the problem solution. And I'll continue to say that is like, what is the problem that you're solving and what is the solution? But also, who are you serving? Who are your customers? And have you talked to your customers? Like, we can't just make up a program out of nowhere because we want to see it, because no one will come. It's not a built it and we will come. It's who are you actually serving? And so understanding that and then bringing that into your pitch. I spoke with 100 people that come to my library, and those 100 people would love to see this thing, whatever it is. And then bringing that into your problem solution, knowing your numbers, knowing what impact it's going to make on the space that you're in and how it can maybe serve other parts of the community is very important in the pitch. And then just relaxing, like, we're your friends, we're in a room, we're here to support you, we're cheering for you, but it helps if you know those things.
Great. Diane?
Yes, I'd like to add on to what Kanisha just said. I read an article recently on LinkedIn, and they had two suggestions. One was, when you're thinking about your pitch, does your idea address a real tangible problem that your customers have? And Kanisha's spot on when she said, you don't create a project that you think people need. You create a project that they told you that they need. So you're definitely resolving that issue for a certain segment of your population. And then the other thing is, does your proposed solution accurately address the problem in question? Because if it doesn't, then no matter how beautiful and eloquent your pitch is, it's unfortunately not going to fly. So you want to make sure if you're starting out, take something that could be considered maybe a pilot program. And once you develop this project and you have success, you may be able to replicate that maybe in other locations in your library, or you may be able to share this idea with other public libraries, for example. So I just thought that that was very wise advice. And the gal who suggested this, her name is Liz Anderson, posted on LinkedIn.
Great, thank you. Naomi?
Piggybacking just a little bit on what Kanisha and Casey said, know the problem, know the solution, but more importantly, know how your solution differs from everyone else's. 9 times out of 10, the problem has already been identified. What makes your solution different from everyone else's? Why would I want to give you an investment as opposed to someone else who's already brought this problem to the table?
Yeah, exactly. Great. Thank you so much. My next question that I have, and I would just like to remind everybody in attendance that we welcome your questions. Please put them in the chat. I only have a couple more prepared, and then we'll be going to the chat for more questions. I'm going to actually flip sort of the discussion on what we talked about earlier about sort of best practices and tips for presentations. I want to know if there are things that you should definitely not do during a presentation, things that are no-nos or just sort of frowned upon, or I don't know. And for this, I am going to call on Kanisha first.
Of all the people to call up. I think one of the biggest things is when you're talking about your competitors, talking down about the competition. Also, just not knowing what you're talking about. Like, I'm very much a shoot from the hip person. You can give me all the questions in the world. I'm never going to prepare for them, but I am going to just look over them. Understanding, like, in doing that, you have your bullet points and not just kind of going off the rail. I recently had someone pitching to me and they answered the phone and like went on a whole conversation. And I was like, oh, well, we're done with this one. So just like, it's etiquette, right? You have 5 minutes to impress people. So in that 5 minutes, do everything you can to be your best self. Like I always tell my kids, use your library voice and use your tea time actions. So like in that time, I need 5 minutes of like your best self and what you can put out there, and not 5 minutes of I'm hanging out with my friend, at lunch. So I think those are like my biggest things is like, no, this is 5 minutes you're giving to these people that are here in this space.
Yeah, that's good advice. That really happened. Somebody answered a call in the middle of their pitch.
No, it was
That's
yesterday. She
amazing.
answered the phone. She was like, I am on the phone. Can you wait, ma'am? And I was like, whoop, well, that's over end.
Thank you. Next. Okay. Next, I'm going to call on Naomi next for this.
Respect their time. Do not go over the time. You definitely have to be respectful of people's time and what else they're doing and follow the rules. You don't want to be a rule breaker.
Yeah. Being a rule breaker might be okay in some contexts, but yeah,
But in that,
definitely not with the time. No.
you want to respect that time constraint, and because otherwise it comes off as if you were just underprepared.
Yeah, absolutely. Diane?
I have a few suggestions. So for example, probably not a good idea to use unfamiliar jargon when you're speaking, because if you're using acronyms or unfamiliar phrases, people will stop and think, and then it's like, you lost them. The other thing is, if you've trained as a Toastmaster speaker, take a deep breath, slow down, speak slowly and clearly. The other thing is on your slide deck, not too much text, key point, a photo might do. Also, don't ramble, because Naomi just mentioned you have to be respectful of people's times. If you have 5 minutes, you have to make the most of that 5 minutes. And then the other suggestion would be failing to anticipate questions that might be asked of you, because you want to make sure, going back to doing your research, that you feel well prepared and comfortable answering those questions.
Those are all really good tips. Casey?
Yeah, I think to echo Diane as well, in terms of questions, one of my biggest pet peeves is if someone that is presenting a pitch is very defensive. I understand the passion behind everyone's projects or companies and startups, but if we're asking questions and you are being combative and defensive about it, like, this is why I'm the best, that doesn't really leave open for a lot of genuine conversation. So being able to answer the questions respectfully and, again, just honoring everyone's time, I think is a great tip.
Definitely. Great. Thank you. My next question was submitted by a participant, and they want to know what the last book is that you read. And I'm going to start with Naomi for this one.
I just read The Prophet. I'm almost done with it. By what is his name? Something Gibran. I can't pronounce the last name, Gibran, but it was really good, really inspiring, and I think it was something I needed at the moment.
Awesome. Diane?
We have a book group here in Business and Careers, and we just finished our book yesterday, Rebel Ideas by Matthew Syed. It's the power of thinking differently and how having different ideas actually makes the group more effective and more impactful. I do recommend it.
That's awesome. Diane, I might have to come back to you later with some business book recommendations. I'm going to call on Casey next.
I'm actually currently reading a book. It's not related to business though. It's A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah Mars. So a little bit different, but not in the business world right now.
Nice. Kanisha, what are you reading?
I do not read business books. That is a big, no for me. I think they're very boring. So I am reading Layla by Colleen Hoover, and I actually just finished it on my way in this morning.
Nice. Do you have book hangover, or are you ready to start something next?
I am writing after this, so I will not read until I finish writing.
Nice. Oh, there you go. What are you writing?
I am writing about parenting. I adopted 2 girls. And so
Congratulations.
Thank you. My next book would be something, but I think this parenting journey has changed my whole life. So I am writing.
Nice. Congratulations. That's huge. I am reading for anybody who cares. I'm taking a class this semester on multicultural children's and youth literature. We get to do a lot of like choose your own reading adventures as part of that. So I read a ton of picture books, but I actually just finished the graphic novel New Kid by Jerry Craft. And it's about like a 7th grader's experience going to school at a very preppy school, sort of outside of Manhattan, and has to do with like code switching and fitting in with rich kids and all sorts of stuff. And it's just really, really absolutely terrific. I recommend it. So and I'm looking in the chat for any questions. I'm not seeing any. I'm seeing some congratulations for you, Kanisha. Diane, if I could turn it back to you, I'm curious to know if you have any business books or podcasts or sources that you would recommend for maybe idea generation or things that could help with pitch development.
Well, actually, we have an entrepreneur in residence here. We are on our 14th entrepreneur in residence, and each time we have a new entrepreneur in residence, we publish a list of their favorite business books. We did recently publish an article in the Journal of Library Administration because our audience may include librarians, and it's called Building Thriving Communities, the Library's Role in Economic Development. And that was published this month, actually, in the Journal of Library Administration. So if you're interested, I can share that link with the audience. The other thing is we did a podcast, and it has to do with, again, the economic development and the role of public libraries and how important that role is, because libraries are trusted institutions. And so business services is just a natural development over time. We've been involved since 2018 with business services, and just lots and lots. There we go. Thank you, Angel. It's in the chat. But anyway, we have been involved since 2018, and not only the entrepreneur residence, but the targeted programming that we provide. And again, all of those services are free. So if you're interested, I can share that list of favorite business books with the participants from today's call.
Yes, please. That would be wonderful. Thank you. Stacy wants to know, what is the name of the podcast?
I'll tell you what, I'd have to look it up so I make sure I have its number 133, but I'll look it up while you're chatting.
Okay, that sounds good. I actually would like to turn the conversation to Naomi right now, because you have a very interesting perspective being on the panel. So you were part of the Gwinnett County Public Library's New Start Entrepreneurship Incubator Program, but you've also been, so you've been on the participant side, but then you've also served as a judge
Yes.
in local Launchpad competition. So I was wondering if you could talk about those two different sort of experiences, maybe how things you from one experience informed the other experience. Do you have any tips or advice about that? Could you just talk about that for a little bit?
Absolutely. So as a participant, I was very nervous, especially because as I was a participant, I was in school full-time earning another degree. So it was the workload was pretty heavy, but so insightful. And I was really nervous about coming up on at the end of the course, there is a Shark Tank-like presentation where we deliver a pitch and, try to get some funding to start up our business. And again, being a chef, that's not always the easiest thing because there are a million restaurants out there. So it's a little difficult to get funding for something that exists in a million places. When I joined the panelists of judges, it was a completely different outlook to see the nervousness on other people, to see what they were delivering from what they weren't delivering. I got to go back to my own pitch over and over again and say, oh, this is what I missed, or this is what I should have included. And it was great to be able to give other people those insights while I was sitting there saying, this is what you include. Now I'm on a whole other spectrum because I'm also a mentor now. So now I get to prepare them leading up to the pitch. And I know it from both sides to say that this is what you do. This is what you absolutely do not do. And I guess that's just about it. I got 3 different perspectives to look at it from.
That's very cool. I'm interested to know, and this is a question that came to me from one of the attendees, if there was anything specific about like the library program that really helped you in preparing in the entrepreneurship program.
The overwhelming wealth of information. I mean, it seems really silly because it's a library and that's where all the information is. But as an entrepreneur, the library would have been the last place I would have thought to look for that much information. And being linked up with SCORE business mentors, there was so much free information because there's a lot of courses that you can take out there that cost a lot of money. The library's programs are absolutely free. And I can honestly say that because of the programs in the library, I was able to build the business to an extent that I couldn't have seen that before. Or if I had to do it on my own without the help of all of those resources, it would have taken me years to do what I did.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's maybe something that people don't necessarily know about. And I see that Diane just posted about the podcast. So thank you for sharing that. And then if you can share a link to the entrepreneurship and residence recommendations when you have a chance, that would be great. We are still looking for questions from the chat, questions from attendees. We have about 3 or 4 minutes left before we head into our networking session. Jackie has a question, thinking back to the question about what not to do. Any tips for presenting over Zoom, backgrounds, what to wear, et cetera, et cetera? So if there's any advice about that, I'm going to ask Casey first.
Yeah, so some advice is just, especially over Zoom, a background that's not as cluttered or distracting to those that will be watching you. Some of our companies do like branded Zoom backgrounds that have maybe their logo on one side, if you're able to do that. And then in terms of what to wear, just keep it pretty basic. That way, those that are watching and those that are in the audience are able to really focus on the speaker in your presentation and not get distracted with those that are in your background.
Yep, good advice. Diane, do you have any advice?
I would say basically, I totally agree with those suggestions because you don't want the background to be distracting. And I think the other thing is make sure that, you're making good eye contact. Basically, just be your authentic self. I know that people feel nervous because they're maybe on a platform that they're not familiar with. But again, it goes back to the practice that Naomi did to get ready for her pitch. If you've practiced and you feel comfortable and you feel confident, that is going to be exhibited or displayed as you're doing the pitch. So just be yourself, take a deep breath, and then go for it.
Great. Naomi, any advice?
I can give the advice that something that I did in my pitch. Luckily for me, mine was in person. Because I am a chef, I dressed full out in my chef uniform. I presented a buffet style table of food. I needed people to remember me. Even if I didn't win, I had to stick in your mind. So it was a marketing event pretty much in my head. Even though I only have 5 minutes, I have 5 minutes to make you remember me for the rest of your life, hopefully.
What kind of food did you have there?
I did some Cajun wings. I did some arroz con pollo because I do a fusion of Latin American and Creole soul food. And I did a roasted pineapple and red pepper salsa, who someone asked if I was prepared to sell it at that time.
Wow.
And though I did not win, I got a lot of business out of that room.
That's amazing.
My business took off in that room that day.
It's getting close to lunchtime here in Tucson for me. Let's talk about food. I'm hungry. Kanisha, do you have any advice?
First, I want to say, Naomi, where do you live so me and Casey can come?
I am in Georgia.
We are on our way. I think we can get a flight out. I think just making sure that your background is not distracting, kind of like what everyone says, wear something solid, not too much. My biggest things are bracelets that clack, especially if you're a hand talker. And I am a hand talker, so I never wear bracelets. And then thinking about, make sure you wear pants. It's very important that you wear pants. Like, show up on the Zoom like you are in person. Make sure you wear pants. And the other thing is to make sure that wherever you're doing this, There is no one that's going to walk in and distract you. They're like, you are closing yourself out. You are locking yourself in a room. You're hiding the dogs, the turtles, whatever. But like, make sure that like everything is put away and this is like your main focus because you only have 5 minutes. So within that 5 minutes, you get distracted. Somebody comes in, then it's ruining your time.
Yeah, absolutely. LaMonica echoed that in the chat saying remove others from the room, cats, dogs, kids. I remember, you guys probably remember the early days of the pandemic. There was that video of the BBC reporter and he's doing his thing and then his kid comes in. It's like, whoops, like, you don't want a situation like that happening. So great. Well, I think that is it for questions. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up our panel. Thank you so much to everybody for being here. Thank you to our presenters for your advice. And I am going to hand it back to LaMonica now.
Thank you, Anne, and thank you to our panelists, Diane, Naomi, Casey, and Kenesha. Our hope is that this will spark some inspiration for libraries for our pitch competition and also in their everyday lives. So we're now going to transition to our open networking and discussion session. I'm going to hand it over to Angel Truesdell of the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. Angel?
Of course, I pushed the wrong button. Hi, everyone. So this is very informal, but I did prepare some questions just in case. I also want to invite the panelists from the first panel to answer any of Maria's questions that she had earlier. So definitely feel free to do that in the chat or unmute. But I just want to invite everyone to join our LinkedIn page really quickly. We'll put that link in the chat. So comments and questions are welcome. Unmute yourself if you would like. And then just a couple questions to think about. And please feel free, introduce yourself in the chat, all that good stuff. Are you submitting to our competition or do you need to communicate your value soon? Like maybe you're actually talking to another funding source. And then if you're interested in joining a community of practice, what would that look like for you if you want to discuss library pitching or learning to build your professional brand? So I'll put both of these in the chat as well. And we could just have an open conversation, talk about yourselves, where you're from. If you feel like you're going to be submitting to our competition, we'd love to hear about it. But yes, does anybody have anything? What did everybody think of our panels today? Did they get some good information? I know I did. And this is my third year doing this, and I still get so much great information out of this.
I was just Duncan, and I was just really pleased with the quality and so much helpful information. It was great. So thank everybody for making this happen.
Thank you so much. Oh, of course, Emily, thanks. John, will this recording and chat be available? Yes. So anyone who attended today or registered will receive an email. We'll also put the video up on our website to view later. And that's also a reminder that our past 2 workshops that we had last year in 2022 are also on our website. So look for that as well. Let's see. Thank you. The panel of business experts had great advice. I really appreciate it and learned a lot. Yes. And then not planning to enter this year, but we are in the very beginning of potential library renovation need. So the art of pitching is something I need to learn and practice as a library director, how to pitch to our town council, to potential funders, etc. This has been hugely helpful and inspiring. Thank you so much. Thank you, Stacy, for saying that. We really appreciate that. We want everyone to get some value out of today. I'm going to try to put these into the chat before I forget. Anyone else have to communicate a need or something to their communities or other libraries, maybe? Oh, thank you, Diane, for putting those books in there. I will share this in our follow-up. This is amazing.
I have something that I'll
Oh,
share. This was, I'm a New York Times subscriber and I get their Well newsletters every Thursday. I'm not sure if other people do. And the most recent one had a very interesting thing. It was tips about dealing with conflict. And it was like advice from a hostage conflict negotiator. Well, so I'm somebody who's very conflict averse. And you're probably thinking like, what does conflict have to do with pitching or something? But the advice that they gave was to, before you go into it, to start with some sort of grounding exercise, whether that's like a short meditation or breathing exercises, so that you get into like feeling like stable as a person before you go into whatever it is. So that piece of advice I thought might be good for like preparing before you go in for a pitch. And if you're feeling very nervous or something, maybe whatever you do to help calm you. Maybe it's listening to music, maybe it's, I don't know, breathing, maybe it's essential oils, maybe it's, I don't know, having a mini like dance party to get your wiggles out. My kids do that sometimes before big stuff. Just whatever helps you feel good and ready to go.
yeah. I think that's really great because I think sometimes we forget and everything we're doing, even today, I probably could have used a 5-10 minute meditation before coming on here because I forgot to record and I never do that. So yes. All right. Let's see. I'm just trying to make sure we don't have, okay. Anyone else? Well, if anyone is available, it would be nice if we could get a picture for our LinkedIn. So if you feel comfortable unmuting your video, and we'll do maybe like a quick wave or something, and then we'll end today's session. I really appreciate everyone coming. If you have any questions, please visit our website. Please get in touch with our co-chairs. We have Steve Kramer here, LaMonica Wiggins, who we are so grateful for being our host today, and Geeta Haley. They're all on here as our co-chairs for today, but we'll get a quick picture. I'm going to give everybody like 10 more seconds, and then I'll try to capture this picture. Really appreciate everyone. So I'll let everyone know when we need to wave. Okay, hopefully that, oh, no, that did mess me up. Okay, I'll do it a different way. Oh, that's totally fine, John. We appreciate you. We've got some good people off, put their camera on. So, all right, let's do 1, 2, 3 wave for now. Okay, let's see. Okay. All right. So definitely follow us on LinkedIn if you're there. Check out our website. Please submit a proposal to our competition. We really appreciate everyone's attention here. If you would like to join the EOC in the future, if you want to be a planning member, please let us know. And we thank you for everyone. I'm going to stop our recording.